Welcome, welcome everybody, and thank you so much for joining me for this special session on digital entrepreneurship and the power of focus. My name is Gloria Roheim, and I'm a Senior Solutions Consultant at Hootsuite, focused on financial services. And so I have the lucky pleasure of speaking about this important topic with you today because, as you'll see in a few moments, it's something that's near and dear to my heart that I have a lot of experience with. But before we even dive in, it would probably make sense to unpack what digital entrepreneurship means for the purpose of this session, and also, why focus is powerful. So, digital entrepreneurship, that can mean, for the purpose of this conversation, anything from a solo business person who is using the social web and digital communications to grow their business, to reach new customers, to impact a large audience of people, or somebody who is perhaps working inside of a company, somebody who is enterprising, somebody thinking about a project that they're using digital for within their organization to make an impact. So whichever, if either of those fits you, that's the conversation for today, and we're going to talk about how you can do more and go farther with some focus. But before we do that, I think it's appropriate to introduce myself and tell you a little bit more about how it is that I uncovered the power of focus myself. So after 8 years of running a social media consulting and training business with my husband, I joined Hootsuite to do some enterprise sales and solution consulting in November 2016, which is shortly after when they opened their Toronto office. So now we span, if you don't know, from Vancouver to Toronto in Canada, our home country. And it was an exciting opportunity for me, especially after 8 years of doing very similar work to Hootsuite, but of course on a smaller scale as an entrepreneur, to join the bigger, amazing family that really is the Hootsuite culture. And also after I had my very first son, who is now just over 1 year old. But before Hootsuite Enterprise, which is what I'm focused on at the company today, I was a Hootsuite Pro and a Hootsuite Free user. So, you'll learn that there are different levels of support that Hootsuite can offer different businesses depending on the scale and the scope of your need. And so I had a lot of experience helping even my own clients, multiple organizations of mine from small businesses. So that could be a lot of you similarly with the Pro account. And also people, from small businesses to florists and to organizations, not-for-profit social impact initiatives, who also found it really important to use Hootsuite as a collaborative tool to manage their online communication. So I was so familiar with this tool and loved what it was able to do for me and my business that I can confidently say that without Hootsuite, there's no way that we would have been able to grow my two-person consulting practice into something that was doing foreign projects with foreign governments in other countries, which is what is some of the fun that I've been able to do in the last 8 years. But all that to say, whether it was the launch of my own book, which we know there's going to be a special prize given to some lucky winner soon, BYOB, the Unapologetic Guide to Being Your Own Boss, whether it was my book launch or whether it was communicating and building my customer base, it was critical that social media and digital communications was at the core of my marketing, my advertising, my relationship building, and my networking. So you can imagine that as an entrepreneur, like many of you probably are, you've got a lot of things that you do, right? Your experiences are going everywhere from having to network, having to prospect, having to publish content. You've got personal lives too, beyond your marketing and your billing and your client service. You've got a family probably. You've got rest that you have to do. There's certain household things that need taken care of. And, that is the reality. So it becomes really apparent very quickly that there's a lot of things that are in demand of your attention. And as an entrepreneur, whether, again, you're doing a special project in an organization or you're running your own business, you are wearing a lot of hats. And so, that's not it. There's also the fact that social media requires that you have a whole ton of things that are distracting you and overwhelming you for your attention. And, 3 years into my business, it was clear to me that it was no longer serving me to be on every single social media platform, trying to be on top of every communication. Because when I did something that literally was the best choice I made in those years and also the scariest outcome, I installed a tracker on my computer to see where I spent the majority of my time during my day. And I wondered why it was that I was from 6 in the morning till midnight most days and even on weekends, deep in the trenches of work without the ability to feel like I was making great headway. And it was clear to me after looking at the results of that app that I was spending a disproportionate amount on social media, not to my own business benefit. So that's the reality. Back in 2009 when I was starting my business, the convention at the beginning of that era was that you had to be everywhere. And in many cases that's true for particularly big brands, and that is still true for some entrepreneurs with very specialized industries. But there's been a shift in the industry. It's 2017, and moving into the future, it's crystal clear that if you focus your time and you choose a few social environments where you're really going deep, that it will get you farther and wider into your customer base, doing the right kind of work on social that can impact the results that you're after. And at the end of the day, you'll have more time to be thinking about the next aspects of your business, to manage the other areas of your responsibilities. And realistically speaking, that's what a business needs to do. So that shift that I'm talking about, it is really nicely captured thinking about one of the most widespread publishing news media outlets in the world, which is the Wall Street Journal, who in 2012, at the very beginning of this trend starting to shift toward less is more, started to notice that when they published less content and spent more time just interacting, that they had a huge increase in their interactions on social media by 74%. So that's an astounding figure. And if you're thinking about this at a scale of a national publication, imagine that as a small team who probably doesn't even have a quarter of the resources, if even a tenth of the resources, to focus or spend on in social media and online advertising, imagine how much it could do for your business and for your entrepreneurial projects if you spent less time trying to publish and be everywhere and more time focusing in on building relationships and interactions. So take a second to just think about how different your day could look if you spent a more focused amount of energy on social media, rather than allowing it to pull you into the vortex that can often happen to so many of us. So we've all been there and we've all done that. Nothing to feel bad about, just something that you can change in your behaviors and in your focus for 2017 and beyond. So how is it that you can maximize your time on social media? Well, you could begin by doing the most important thing you'll ever do for your social media, and that is to define and get really concrete about who your ideal customer is. So, reality is, if you're talking to everybody and you believe that everybody is your customer or everybody is your audience, then I am sorry to tell you that you are probably wrong, and you're going to be grateful that you're wrong about this. Because when you start to get more focused, when you go and you do the work of refining and defining that ideal customer better, every single choice you make on social will go farther and make a bigger impact. So there may be even, and there was in my case for a few years there, a big difference between who it is you think your ideal customer is and who your actual customer is. So what's that distinction? That means you may think that your product or your service is for some particular person, but in reality, the people that are making purchases or who are most engaged or who are sharing and who are the biggest fans of what it is that you do, those customers may be a completely different kind of segment. So how is it that you're able to make this distinction and go deeper, to define them? Well, these are some key questions to ask. When you think about people purchasing from you, or you think about the problem or the need that your business or your entrepreneurial project is addressing, what is the worldview of the ideal customer that will satisfy? So in other words, what are those people thinking that are buying your products? What are their belief systems? Where do they spend time? What do they do on the weekend? When they're on social media, what is it that they're doing? What are they searching for? What social media platforms are they on? Are they avid users, or are they quick consumers? Do they just go online to quickly eat some bite-sized chunks of interesting information, or do they spend lengthy time wanting to read detailed content or looking at multimedia type of digital content? Do you notice that there's a specific gender? Is it skewing more toward men or women, the elderly or the youth, that millennial demographic? What's that age cohort that really defines the ideal person that your entrepreneurial venture is focused on? So those are some big questions to chew on, but please take a second, write down a few of the ones that are most interesting to you or that you would love to answer deeper, and spend the time after this session at some point really digging into those answers. And once you have those answers, you have a clear idea at the beginning. And by the way, this is a work in progress. This is something you'll constantly be looking at, quarter over quarter, year over year, until you really feel confident. So it's not something that you're expected to know. But the more depth you go to when it comes to defining this segment, the better focused your content and your activity level on social media will be. Heck, you might even decide that there's no point being on certain platforms, and you'll double down on one or two of the social networks that will make the biggest impact. And hint, hint, based on the fact that paid advertising and online advertising is critical, I strongly urge you to spend a lot of time on Facebook and exploring what Facebook ads can do. Better yet, if you're someone who's considering Hootsuite Enterprise, we have an ads platform built in there too. So certainly send a question or a query into our team and if you're interested in that. But all this to say is that if you're ever going to do paid advertising online, if you're ever going to really maximize the time you spend, you're going to want to know exactly who you're talking to the point that you might even give this ideal customer a name. So spend some time to find that ideal customer, and you're building a great foundation for the focus that you'll spend on social this year. Secondly, there are some fantastic resources that you can leverage for free right on our Hootsuite website. And these are some templates that will really allow you to look at what you already have on social right now, or if you're brand new to starting something, this will give you a fantastically strong start, to look at this link and download what it is that your social media goals are trying to achieve. Because just being on social media for the sake of it will only get you so far. It really has to be linked, every social action or every platform that you're active on social media, to a business goal or a campaign goal that you have in mind for your project or for your enterprise. Secondly, there are social media strategy templates which you can download and really plan out properly, for those teams that you're working with or for those volunteer interns in a lot of cases, really how it is that you're going to approach social media in an effective manner. And then for many of you, you're going to have a whole bunch of social media accounts. So spend some time doing what we call a social audit, where you're looking at what are the URLs you've created, what social networks are you active on, which ones are doing the best, what is the purpose of being on some of them, and you'll quickly see through our template sheet that you're going to have some clarity around what you're doing there, and the more clarity you have and the more obvious that information is in front of you, the better you'll be able to make choices that will allow you to focus on what is giving you the best results. We've also got editorial calendar templates in this particular link, so you'll be able to plan content moving forward. And again, if you're using Hootsuite in any capacity at any of our levels of service, then you'll be able to schedule that content into the future and plan it so that you're, again, optimizing the amount of time and the focus that you're spending on marketing and engaging on social media. And then you'll also see things like bulk upload templates to help you plan a lot of content in advance and really upload it right to Hootsuite to schedule in large quantities, as well as figuring out finally how to get that image resized in the right way for each of the different platforms so that you're not uploading something beautiful to Instagram and then something that looks horrible when you get it onto Facebook or Twitter. So do take advantage of these templates, particularly after you've spent the time to define your ideal customer. And then the last, but the equally important piece, once you've done those two really important steps, and think about these three steps as something that you can accomplish as soon, if you're really keen, as after this session is over, or something that can take you sort of 30 days to really get at and think about and sleep on it and really make sure that you feel comfortable and confident about the direction you're taking. But when you're ready to do it, then it's time to allocate your time on social. And this is where you need to schedule and put in your calendar, whether you're using a digital calendar that you can set a reminder for, or whether you are using a paper and a pen still. And sometimes I find that that is also really helpful for me when I'm a little digital out, if that's even a possibility. And so what I do is I put twice a day, 30 minutes minimum, where I spend my time on social media. And because I've planned out my content and because I know what I'm doing on each of these channels, it's a focused 30 minutes in which time I can accomplish more than I used to accomplish in hours wasted on social trying to just be everywhere and speak to everyone and listen to everything. The good news about 2017, whether you're just getting started or whether you're going to make some modifications, is that if you follow these 3 approaches, and that's all you do on social, I guarantee you that you're going to start seeing results and a change in the impact you're having 30 days, 60 days, 90 days down the road. And you'll be able to look back on this year and know that you have a clear understanding of the difference social media was making for you, and particularly if you're using analytics tools that we offer as well, so that you can measure that return on your time invested and your money invested. So put it in your calendar, and if you have trouble coming offline, set an alarm on that exact same calendar piece that tells you it's time to move on to your next entrepreneurial task. And if you're like me, who have gotten this into a really great habit, then perhaps you even want to turn off any alerts from any of your social networks on your mobile device, because guess what? You don't need to get those alerts. Nothing is that urgent. You're going to be on your social platform at least twice a day. So you'll catch it in the morning or you'll catch it at the end of the day, and you can just allow yourself to focus on the other tasks of your business that are equally important. So we've gone through a few things. We've talked about the distractions you've got, the volume of your responsibilities, and the shift in social moving into 2017 and beyond that allows you to do less and get more out of it. So I'm curious, what action are you going to take next to focus? I'd love to hear from you on social, so definitely tweet at me for everything during this conference. Make sure that you hashtag Latam Digital. And more than that, please take advantage of Hootsuite's 30-day trial, if you haven't already, of Hootsuite professional plans. Go to this link, you'll see it in your language, and you'll be able to understand the type of thing that Hootsuite can allow you to do that will help you be more powerful and more focused on social in 2017 and beyond. So I'd love to hear from you. Let's have a Q&A session.